everyone, Charlene here. Last week I shared with you how to make a really cute vest card. I added tackle on there, and that tackle came from this display box tackle add-on set. I thought it'd be fun this week to share with you two coordinating items and make a card. These both go with the tackle box add-on. There is this fun tackle box set as well as a display box cover plate. The tackle box is a lovely layer set, and you can layer all the pieces to create a really cute tackle box for the front of your card. The display box A2 cover plate creates this really cute display box that you can use to put all the different tackle pieces in, or really whatever your heart desires for a display box. So I'm going to use this today to create my card. I'll start by picking out some cardstock. There are two large dies in the display box set. You're going to take the large outline die and you're going to cut it from one of your pieces of cardstock. I have here a dark brown cardstock, and I'll run this here through my die cutting machine. Then I'll also cut it out from a piece of light brown cardstock. This is going to give us a very traditional looking tackle box. You could do other combinations as well. I prefer the look of a light and a dark piece. So I'm taking the dark piece and I'm going to grab the other large die and line this up in the center of the dark piece to cut it out. To keep my die from shifting while I run it through my machine, I'll go ahead and add a couple of pieces of low-tack tape on top of the die to hold it in place. And I'm also going to shift it and run it through at an angle. When you are working with large dies like this, it always helps to shift it at an angle. It helps to cut down on any jumping or skipping as you run it through your machine. And you can see that the part we care about here for purposes of our card is this piece that creates the little cubbies in the display box. And it's going to layer over perfectly the light brown piece that we cut from the large outline die. And this is why I think the dark and light combination works well. There are two additional dies here. I suggest cutting these out from some type of metallic cardstock, but you could use whatever you wanted. I used brushed gold cardstock here to cut out these dies, and it creates two hinges as well as a plate for your display box. It's really handy to have a little sanding block around. These are actually emery blocks. They're for nails, and they have sandpaper on them, and you can use them to go around on your larger die cut pieces and get any excess little paper fibers off that might be on there. Next, I'll grab a couple of magnets here. I have a magnetic glass board, and I'm going to use those to hold my die cut in place while I go around and add glue on here. I find it so helpful to use magnets or a pair of reverse tweezers or even some low-tack tape to hold my die cuts in place when they're large like this, so I can easily add the glue on there. I'm dotting my glue. You also could run a thin line, but I think the dots actually work really well for this type of piece and use less glue. I have a quick and easy tip for you when lining things up when you are layering die cuts. You're going to take whatever your base piece is and put it in the corner of your scoreboard or your MISTI, something that has a lip going along the edge that you can push your piece into the corner. Then you just take your top piece, line it up with those two edges, and you can easily drop it down over the larger piece on the base and it will pair up perfectly. You can add the brass plate and hinges wherever you think they would look nice. I'm going to go ahead and add mine as intended so that you can see what it's meant to look like. I'll add glue here to the brass plate, and I'm going to adhere this in the center of the side that has the two large compartments. Then I'll grab my T-square here. You could use any kind of ruler or even the back of your crafting mat if it has a grid on there, and this is going to help me to line up the hinges equal distance so I can see what tick mark I used for the one side, flip my T-square around, and then use that same tick mark on the opposite side to ensure that my hinges are equal distance in from those edges. I think measuring is probably the best way to do it, at least for me, because it takes all of the guesswork out of it. If you want this to have some really fun dimension, you could cut out multiples of the top darker layer and glue them together. That would make a nice kind of true box shape. You'd have little indented wells and it would still be easy to mail. I don't recommend trying to do that with foam tape just because these inner lines are so thin. You could do foam tape though around the outer edge if you wanted to, and then even use some acetate back behind there and make it into a fun shaker card. Let's go ahead and pick out some cardstock for the fun tackle to include in our display box. One of the really nice things about Honeybee Stamps is they always have these awesome layering guides, which not only show you how to layer up all of the different die cuts, but they also give you color ideas. So I'm going to largely stick with the colors that are suggested here so you can get a sense of what it looks like. I've laid out all of my dies here, ready to cut everything out from cardstock. And you can see I've chosen the different colors of cardstock. Most of these dies cut from 2 different colors. I find it really handy to use a small tabletop sized die cutting machine when I'm cutting out lots of little dies like this. I'm going to cut out this bobber to start, and I'll cut it from a medium yellow color and then also from a medium green. Part of the reason I like to do it this way is then I can easily organize my die cuts as I go into a little dish, and that ensures that they stay separated and I don't miss or lose any of my little dies or my die cuts. For a lot of these different dies, because you're cutting them out from 2 different colors, you'll actually be able to create double pieces when you're finished. For this fishing lure here, I cut it out of that same green and then a slightly darker green and navy. This is one of the few dies that has 3 layers. For this fishing lure, I'm going to cut it from that same darker green as well as the navy. For this hook here, I'm cutting it from the navy as well as a lighter blue. This bobber I'll cut from light yellow and then red. I'll cut this bobber from the darker green and then also from the light yellow. For this lure, I will cut it out of some ivory as well as the red cardstock. I'll cut the base of the compass from navy. The face I'm going to cut out from white cardstock, and then I'm going to cut the little arrow out of some red cardstock. For the fishing line spool, I'll cut this out from some metallic silver cardstock, and then for the line portion, I'll cut that out of white cardstock. I'm going to cut all of these fishing hooks out from that same metallic cardstock, as well as this fishing knife. For the knife shaft, I'll cut it from some dark gray as well as a light brown. For these feathers, I'll cut them out from white and then 2 different colors of gray cardstock. And I'm going to cut this little part here as well from some black cardstock. There's another set of feathers, and these are going to adhere to a hook. I'll cut these from the dark and the light gray. For our last fishing lure, this is going to get cut from navy and light blue. Now I can go ahead and layer everything, starting with the fishing knife. I'll take this larger handle piece here and add some glue to the back. This will layer over and match the bottom portion of the handle of the knife piece. This smaller piece in the light brown, I'll add some glue to the back of it, and this will line up over the center of the handle. And this creates the cutest little hunting or fishing knife. For our fishing spool, also adorable, I'm going to take the white piece that we used for the line. This is going to go over the center of the spool. Then I can take the top here, add some glue to the back, and that's going to layer up perfectly over the top portion of the spool. So here is our finished little fishing spool. For our compass, I'll start here by adding some glue to the back of the red arrow. Then I'll put this in the center here of the white face, add some glue to the back of the white portion, and then this will go into the center of our navy base. Now here's our finished little compass. If you were feeling very clever, you could probably put something in there like a small brad and leave that red part unglued so it spins around. I have all 3 of the bobbers here. These are going to layer up in essentially the same way. So I'll add glue to the smaller portion, and then that will layer over the larger portion of the bobber to create a 2-colored bobber. So here are our cute little bobbers. We also have 3 fishing lures here. These are going to layer up in essentially the same way. So we'll take the smaller of the 2 main die cut pieces, and the smaller piece will layer over the larger die cut, and it'll line up right along the edges, so it'll be easy to see how to layer. Then we can come in and add a dot of glue where the eye goes, and you could separately cut out a white eye if you wanted to, but I just used the coordinating color and I'll pop it right on there. For this red lure, we're going to take the smaller ivory piece and add some glue to the back. This is going to glue right over the center so those 2 holes line up on the die cuts. So there's that finished lure there. For these 2 feathers, we're going to grab the largest of the metal hooks that we cut out. And you can see there's no opening on that top spot. We'll just add a little dot of glue on there. And then we can take the larger of the feather pieces and line it up so it glues on the top. Then add another dot of glue on the top of that and layer the smaller, kind of wider feather piece on the top. Here's our finished feather hook. For the large feather piece, it's kind of the same. We're going to take the darkest gray feather and we're going to add some glue towards the top, and then we'll take the white feather, which is kind of a 2-pronged feather, and it'll line up and match that top portion there. Again, add a little bit of glue. We'll bring in the light gray feather, and that's going to layer again at the top right along that kind of like neck of the piece. They're all going to line up together, and then that little extra piece that I cut out earlier from black, that's going to kind of create a cap and make it look like all of those feathers are tied together. So here's our finished feather piece. And I'm not sure what this hook is. So I went ahead and layered it though, and put the lighter piece here along the curve of the main piece. And now we see all of our tackle that we've put together, as well as the remaining fun metal fishing hooks. We have a bunch of leftovers here that we could make additional tackle from for another card. So I have my display box cover here. I'll go ahead and lay out all of the different pieces of tackle now where I think I want them to go. And I wanted to show you that you can also add little hooks onto the lures. So anywhere that there's a little piece that's sticking out from the lure, you can glue a hook onto that. Now I'll come in here on some of these and I'm going to add foam squares on the back in order to pop them up on the front of the card. Adding these foam squares on here is just going to give it a fun little variation, bits of dimension here and there. Then some of these I'll go ahead and adhere directly with glue. Here's a tip for the hooks or any small die cuts. When you add glue to the back, tap it off onto a little piece of cardstock or tissue. That's going to help keep any extra glue from squishing out. So here is the finished display box, and you can see some of those pieces raised up with foam tape and then others glued directly on there. I just really think it gives it some fun variation by having the different layers and levels. And this is still going to fit easily into an A2 sized envelope, which is really nice. For our sentiment, I'm going to bring in here the Well Played Sir stamps and coordinating dies that I have. These go really well with the entire release because there's lots of different masculine sentiments here. For this card, I want to keep my sentiment a little smaller so I can still see all of that fun tackle that we created. So I'm going to stamp out this happy retirement. I'll get some black pigment ink here and go ahead and ink up my stamp well, and then I'll flip my plate over here and press and lift. I'm going to stamp a second time to build up the black ink, and then this is a rough edge font, so it's meant to look a little bit more masculine with that fun rough edge on it. I lined up the coordinating die. I'm going to tape both ends so it doesn't shift on me. Then I'll cut it out with my die cutting machine, add a tiny bit of foam tape on the back here, just in the areas that I felt it needed a little extra support. And then I've added some glue in the other areas. I'm gonna tuck this in here, sorry for my hair in this shot. And I want it to go on the edge of the knife and kind of come in across and under that lure on the right hand side. Next, I'll add some glue to the back of the completed panel and adhere it to an A2 sized card base. And you'll see on the edges here, there's these little white corners that are all the way around. You could clip those off or you can leave them. I kind of like the way it looks with them there, so I'm going to leave them. Our finished card is super, super cute. I think it looks so fun with all of that added tackle that we have on there. Anyone that enjoys fishing or the outdoors would love this card. And then, like I said, you can use this display box to display all kinds of other small die cuts or small stamped images. Lots of options. Just use your imagination there. I hope that you all picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll know about future videos here on the Honeybee Stamps YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.